How you guys and girls doing? It's been having a technological challenge, which doesn't surprise me, Vince, to believe it, that when you're telling the truth and you're putting out something positive, that's really going to help people to stop you. And in my experience, that's true. That's definitely been true, especially with the live streams. It's kind of amusing as well. It depends on how you look at it. But I spoke to a lot of people, and they do agree, because every time I'm about to do a talk or be vulnerable and share um, my life story or talk about things that are very meaningful, the computer starts to crash, the internet slows down, and that's one of the challenges. And I was doing an interview recently, which I'll be uploading, a really good one, and we had the same challenge. I had the same challenge with a friend who was interviewing me from California. So who knows? Technology's got a mind of its own. It's got its own conscience or consciousness, you could say. And if someone would have said this to me years ago, I would have thought they were crazy. But having experienced this numerous times now, I'm convinced, and having lived, I guess, long enough. So let's see if we can get through this, because I was really looking forward to doing this stream and talk. But like I say to my clients, and I try and live this, worst case scenario, it's not going to work out. You pick yourself back up, you go again the next day, and you don't give up. That's kind of the moral of the story of all journeys and success. If you give up when you get a challenge, whether it's technological, it's financial, it's in your relationships, it's your mental health, it's whatever's challenging you at the moment. Anxiety comes with all those challenges. If you give up, then you make yourself fail. No one else does. So there's a lesson already. Let's see where we go. Well, at least I fixed the lighting, because earlier on the lighting weren't great. So the lighting's good. I'm going to keep improving these streams, because I've been really enjoying them lately. So I'm going to get an upgrade on the laptop. Hopefully I'm going to find one that's got a better camera, better audio, sound, because the videos that I'm doing at the moment on YouTube, they're fantastic because the camera quality is better than the laptop quality, and I put a lot of effort in. And during lockdown, I studied and learned myself how to film, the lighting, the audio, and I really improved at it, as you can see. But obviously with the laptop and the live streaming, the quality on this camera, it isn't as good as the camera quality on my phone or my Canon camera. But again, these are the challenges that you learn to overcome and deal with in life. And this is an anxiety, obviously, that a lot of people have. A lot of people are embarrassed about, publicly things going wrong, whether it's on a live stream or it's on a date or it's a job interview or they're giving a talk. And I've had all these anxieties as well. We're going to talk about that today and hopefully get some questions in as well. I had a great day today. I hope all of you had a good day as well. I think it's really important to do that. I think everyone should do that, and I'm really glad that I started doing that, because I didn't used to do that years ago. Obviously, we're all human. Life is challenging, and you're not always aware to put these things into practice. So it's good to sort of sit down and reflect and say, I really appreciate my day today. Or if you didn't appreciate it, still find gratitude. But I had such a good day today. Such a good day. So, yes, being honest about your anxieties is the best advice I could give anyone, for men and women of any age. Now, easier said than done. Easier said than done. It's easy for me to say, well, whatever's bothering you, whatever anxiety you've got, just be honest about it. And I've said that, and that's true. And I've said it from a good place. Sometimes I've said it from a place of being impatient with people, because I'm still human, and I'm human and learning. But the reality is, that's been one of the hardest things on my journey. to be honest and open and vulnerable, and to allow myself to be weak and say, I'm frightened of so many things. I've got anxiety around so many things that I'm scared about, and I'm scared to share them with people because I don't know what they're going to think and I don't know how they're going to react. But then I always come back to the best truths that I've learned, which is it's not important what people think about me or what they say about me. That's not important. What's important is what I think about myself and how I live my life, and how I react to what they say about me. Because for as long as I care about what anybody thinks about me, if I invest my time in that, I can't live my life. I can't enjoy my life. And my self-esteem will be non-existent. And selfishness will also get in the way, because I'll be so selfish and so focused and self-centered around what everybody thinks about me and what I say and what I feel. I won't be able to go and live my purpose, which is to help people who have got anxiety to have the courage to say, these are the things that I'm frightened of, and then to teach them how to face those things. Well done. You've already applied the teaching today. That's a lot of strength. And that's why I put in the title, I think I did it in the last live stream, weakness is how you wipe out all anxieties and face them. Weakness, there's strength in weakness. When I tried to be strong, every time I tried to be strong, and I'll explain what I mean by that, strong in the way of worrying what people would think about me and letting my pride get in the way and not admitting that I had anxiety and that I was frightened of everything and everyone, I couldn't progress in my life. It wouldn't change. So I tried being strong in the way that most of us have been taught and encouraged. It didn't work. So for me, at the start of my journey, my idea of being strong was lying about the fact that I weren't afraid, and not opening up, not being honest with myself. I couldn't be honest with myself when I was younger because I was so ashamed. I was so ashamed of I don't know if it would be accurate to say that I was ashamed of everything about myself. That's probably an exaggeration, but I was ashamed about having anxiety and being frightened of things. I was ashamed for being afraid. I felt like I shouldn't be. I felt like that wasn't being a man. That was shameful, weak, embarrassing, revolting, disgusting, almost not allowed. So I did what a lot of people do, what a lot of men do, and women and people do. I bottled it up. I bottled it up and I didn't talk about it. And in not talking about it and bottling it up, I felt absolutely paralyzed, stuck, hopeless, anxiety attacks, paranoia, diarrhea. And at a certain point in my early 20s, I became suicidal. I started to fantasize and think about killing myself because I thought that might be a better option than living the way that I'm living now, because the way I'm living now is it's agony, it's depressing. It was so lonely, it was so insecure, it wasn't honest. It never felt good, it never felt right. But because I was stuck, because I thought, if I admit this, if I admit this to myself, and if I tell my parents this, if I tell the whole world, they're going to say that is the weakest man or individual that we've ever seen. And I'm going to be, what was the fear? The fear I guess the fear was I'm going to die with humiliation and shame. And I guess the further fear was people won't like me, they won't love me, they won't accept me, they won't understand me, and I'll be judged by other people forever. And there'll be nothing that I can do about that. I won't be able to undo that. So I'll be stuck forever in this place of hopelessness and darkness. And that absolutely terrified me and frightened me to death. And I believed the thoughts in my head. I believed the thoughts that said to me, "Oh, Jonathan, if you admit these things, you're going to die, or you're going to get more pain and anxiety inflicted." And it was all a fear around identity. It was all me going back to childhood, where initially I said this on my interview. I remember when I was young, I was confident, I was kind, I was really brave, I was trusting, I was open, I was lovely, like all of us when we're younger and we're born. But then something happened. I got bullied, I got judged, I got shamed, and that affected me. That broke me down. It made me insecure. It made me paranoid. It made me not want to trust people. It made me not like myself. It made me not like the way that I looked. I didn't like my voice. I was ashamed of how I looked, how I spoke, because I believed the bullying and the criticism that other people put on me. And I didn't know how to undo that because I originally really believed in myself, and it wasn't a problem. It was never a problem. It was never a problem to be myself, and it was never a problem to live my life until I believed it was a problem by taking on the opinions, the criticism, and the abuse, both physical and verbal, and letting it get into my psyche and being possessed by these voices of doubt, shame. You're not good enough. You're ugly. You're a geek. You're disgusting. You're nasty. You're stupid. You're unintelligent. All these things that were said to me when I was younger, I didn't know how to deal with them. I didn't know how to get them out of my head, and they stayed in my head. They stayed in my psychology. So every time I tried to move forward in my life, I'd start to have anxiety attacks, paranoia, depression. As I said, at times thoughts that I should kill myself, even though I didn't want to do that. So I just felt trapped and confused, and I didn't know where to turn to, and I didn't know where to go. I felt there was nowhere to go. I thought I don't deserve to go anywhere. I don't deserve help. So it affected me it really traumatized me and made me feel stuck, isolated, lonely, depressed, and I didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't know that I could get out of it, and I didn't think I was allowed. So I didn't know how to give myself permission, and I didn't know how to ask for help. So what I continue to do in my life, especially in my teens, up in, 16, 17, 18, 19, I just put on a persona, acted tough, even though I look back now and it wasn't tough, but it was my idea of tough and the idea of what other people had told me what was tough and what they expected of me. So I wasn't really being myself, and I wasn't living my dreams because I was afraid to. I was afraid of the repercussions of what would happen to me. And a lot of the fears of punishment that I had, of course, they come from my childhood. They come from getting bullied. So when I did express joy and love, I was threatened with violence. If you do that, if you speak, we're going to kill you. Now, this sounds extreme, but it's true. These are things that were said to me in school and many other kids. So you might be going through the same. You might be feeling the same way that I felt when I was in my teens, and also how I felt in my 30s, and at times right now at 40. And what I'll say to you is, it's not who you are. It's not who we are. It's just fear. It's anxiety. It's one of its tricks to blackmail you, to shame you, to put more fear into you, and to get you to energize it and feed it. And basically to get you to do this. I'll give you an example, right? This is what anxiety does to so many men and women all around the world, millions of men and women and people. It's done it to me loads of times. I'll show you right now. It does this. Paralyzes them into silence because they're scared to communicate, because the anxiety gets triggered from the brain. I believe it's I think it's the amygdala. I could be wrong about that, but that doesn't matter. I know what I'm talking about. It gets triggered, fight or flight comes. So the anxiety gets triggered, the thoughts start coming, and then the feelings come, uncomfortable feelings from childhood, sadness, pain, sorrow, insecurity, loneliness, feelings of not being good enough, feelings of being left, abandoned. Those feelings start to come up in your body. And then the story kicks in about how you're not good enough and how you're ashamed and how this is the person you are. So that's not the person anyone is. But it's not easy to believe that. It's really challenging. It's so challenging. It's so challenging to not believe that when you've believed that about yourself for so many years. And that was my story to begin with. I thought I was my anxiety. I thought I was my thoughts. I thought I was the negative things that people had said to me. So if you believe that you're not capable of doing things and you really believe that, then you're not going to go and live your dreams. You're not going to go out and do the things that you want to do. And you won't communicate. Because if you believe that communication could kill you, it could be harmful, it could be shameful, you could be judged, you're going to stop communicating with people. And that's what I did. So anxiety, if you let it and you feed it and believe it, it actually makes you do the opposite of what you should do to be a good person, to have love in your life, to do the things that you want to do, to be, you understand. It tells you the opposite. And that's what it done to me. It shut me down and it created paranoia, which weren't true. So my anxiety would tell me that I can't communicate with my dad because he won't understand. And if I do, he's going to get angry. He's going to be aggressive. He's going to be very judgmental. He's not going to like me. He's not going to love me. It scared the life out of me. Same with my mum. My anxiety told me that if I tell my mum about my anxiety, she's not going to understand everybody. Now, it wasn't true. But when you're in the anxiety and it's strong, it's so easy to believe that. It also told me that no, people won't understand me. They would laugh at me. No one would get me. Everyone would be normal and I'd just be weird. So that was a lot to deal with for a young man when I was on my own and I was in my own thoughts and I was trying to uphold this identity of being what I thought was a strong man. You know, what would impress people? What would make people like me and love me and accept me, both men and women, and my dad and so many other people. So the best thing to do is be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself about your anxieties. And I'm telling you, there is nothing to be ashamed of. It is not a weakness, it's a strength. But you have to be weak to be strong. So, being strong in the way in which so many men and women think strong, it doesn't work with anxiety, which is basically not being vulnerable. Now, of course, obviously, common sense, be careful and be smart about who you trust to share your anxieties with, unless you really get to a space where you can handle the feedback. So for me, I had to find people that I trusted because at a certain point I didn't trust anyone or lots of people. So I spoke to my mum, who I trusted. My mum was brilliant. You know, my mum kept me alive. She was great when I was frightened and having panic attacks. I spoke to my nan, which I've said before, and I'm going to speak again. It's the kindest human being that I've ever met and spent time with. My nan was just unbelievable. And then when I got a bit more courage at certain times when there were certain challenges and things that were frightening me that I felt, well, maybe it would be better to go to my dad for this one. He would be great. Even if he did react and he might be in however he was, when I was really honest and look, I'm really frightened about this, Dad. This is really bothering me. And he would be great. He'd be brilliant. He'd sit me down and talk to me and calm me down and make me see sense, and give me the strength that I didn't have to deal with it. So of course it worked. I've just explained that now. So telling people who love you and will understand will help you. But the first conversation, also, of course, I've got to point out, and I'm not pushing my faith on other people, because as I said, I don't do that unless people ask me and they give me permission, then I'll share it. I had to go to God. I had to pray when I was younger. I had to go to Jesus. I had to say, I need your help. And it was the best thing that I did, because I couldn't always get the strength to go and talk to my mum or my nan or my dad. And then eventually, as I got more strength, I spoke to my friends about it, or a friend at that time, and they were brilliant. They were caring, they were understanding. And of course, at some point, when you admit your anxieties to a family member that you can trust, that loves you, or a friend, or a mentor, or a therapist, or a teacher, in the right context, they will also admit that they've got anxieties, and then you won't feel abandoned, ashamed, misunderstood, and frightened to death. And then you'll get more strength. So that's what I did at the start of my journey. And it's been a continuation. And I'm doing it right now. And that's one of the best ways in which I can teach men and women who have got anxiety to live their dreams. Because that's all I ever wanted to do growing up as a young kid. And it would be the same for all of you, ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted to be happy and be a good person and live my dreams. But the anxiety got the better of me, and it stopped me from living my dreams for a long, long time, until I could find the courage and gradually build the strength, the experience, the discipline, the right way of thinking. And then I was able to do it. And that's been a story that I'm continuing to share. And it's really hard to share it in one go, because I'm trying to share 20 years of my life in a short amount of time on these streams and videos. But I love the challenge. And that's why I continue to share it on all different platforms, or if I'm in person with a client, whatever the case may be, even someone that doesn't know me, if people give me permission, I'll share my story to help them. And if I feel that people don't want me to share it, and it's not appropriate and it's not right, I respect them, and I'm not going to share it, which is why I appreciate all of you coming on the stream today for the mentorship. But, finding the courage to admit your anxieties takes time. I don't think anyone can force you to do that. I can't force you. That would be, I guess that wouldn't be right. But if you said to me, I'm ready to do it, I want to do it, then go for it. I mean, my encouragement would be to anybody listening, for men and women who are really suffering and don't want to suffer anymore and improve their life, do it ASAP. Another thing that you can do is write down all your anxieties. It is an absolutely brilliant therapy. So I'm just going to share with you again all the therapies that I've done, which are confessionary, and they've all they have saved my life. They saved me from suicide. They changed my life in so many ways, and it's been a continuation. It's not like, 20 years ago, I confessed my anxieties to God, which I did. I confessed them to myself, and I confessed them to my mum, my dad, my nan, and trusted friends and mentors. And now I'm perfect. I'm all fixed. Not the case. It's a continuation. Never stop learning. And as I said to everybody, I live with an anxiety disorder, but I refuse on a daily basis to let it stop me from living my dreams. My dreams is to do what I'm doing now, speak and inspire and teach people from all around the world, men and women, how to live their dreams and not live their fears. Because there's always a choice. Every single day, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a choice. We can either live out our anxieties and fears, or we can live our dreams. So let me give you an example of that, make it very simple and practical. We wake up in the morning, ladies and gentlemen, and we wake up and we've got the dread of anxiety. We're worried. We're worried about the future. We're worried about our finances, our relationships, our mental health, our well-being, what we're going to do, our creativity, our career. Now, if we let our anxieties win, we stay in bed. We don't do the things that we know we should do. So we don't go to the gym. So when I talk about living your dreams, I talk about right down to the everyday practicalities of living amazingly and the bigger goals and dreams, because dreams can really intimidate people, can intimidate me at certain times, because people feel like, well, I'm not good enough to live my dreams. I'm not enough. And they start comparing themselves to someone that they think is better than them or who's got more than them. And that's a mistake. But that is human, of course. We all need to forgive one another, forgive ourselves. We're living, we're learning, but I wanted to point out where we all go wrong and where I see clients go wrong, and I'm able to correct them and help them to strengthen that behavior. So please, everyone, be patient with yourself, because this is not a quick fix, but you can start today. You can make progress right now. And it's amazing how much you can change and how much stronger you can become through the practice that I'm saying today, through the honesty, through the vulnerability, through allowing yourself to be weak, especially for a lot of men who are really confused about what is strong, what is weak. And I'll say this, when I tried to be strong, I was always weak. It didn't work. Never worked really, pretty much in the way that men are taught. It didn't work for me. When I was weak, when I was meek, when I was humble, when I was vulnerable, it always worked. In any situation in my life, whether it was financial, it was relationships, it was speaking, it was teaching, it was dealing with mental health, it was being patient with people, forgiving, the weakness, the vulnerability, which I only attribute from my faith from God and obviously my own human effort, always worked, always worked. And it's working right now because you feel it in your own heart, and you'll see the results of it in your life. You'll see it if you're patient and you keep practicing what I'm saying. You got to remember as well, you know, for one person, living their dreams could be different to another person. If I asked all of you now, what is living your dreams? How does that look for you? It's going to be different. People have got ideas. So if you ask me, if you said to me, which is fine, Jonathan, can you give us an example of what is living your dreams? And I can give you an example of today. Today, I live my dreams. That's the truth. I woke up. I gave thanks to the Lord. I gave thanks to God. I gave gratitude. I took a shower. I cleaned my apartment. I packed my bag. I listened to some music, and I went to the gym, and I had a fantastic workout, and I did some praying, and I worked out on the boxing heavy bag, and I went for a swim. I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. I was in complete peace. Then I finished my workout. I took a shower. I walked home. I had a lovely coffee in the gym. I came home today, and I got this live stream on. I'm living my dreams now. I'm living my dreams. I'm doing what I never believed I could do. I was scared to speak. I was scared to teach. So I'm living my dreams right now. So living your dreams is now. What are you doing now? But if you're living your fears and your anxieties, you won't be present right now doing what you want to do. You'll be doing what your anxiety wants you to do. It affects everything, your habits. Now, on a broader level, because people think of dreams as something that you've achieved, which is in the future or the past, and that's true too. If I go back to my story where I started, and I hope I don't bore all of you or put you to sleep with my stories, but you want me to teach you, and I can't think of or feel of a better way that I could teach you by sharing my story with you and opening my heart, so it will help you to open your heart to live the story that you want to live. So 19 years of age, I'm struggling with anxiety and mental health problems. I'm going down a very dark path in my life, a very dark path, to the point where, I want to impress people. So, not an easy thing for me to admit and say, and I will be saying it more in this moment. As you can see, anxiety hits me, but I know the recipe. So at 19, I was selling drugs. I was drug dealing at 19 because I wanted to impress people, right? And at that time, I was lost. I didn't know who I was. I was where I was. But I got caught by the police, which is the best thing that happened to me, and I got arrested. And I was facing possibly between 1 year and 18 months in prison. And I was scared to death of going to prison. I thought, oh my goodness, I've let my parents down, my mum, my dad, my nan, and I'm terrified of going to prison. So luckily, I guess you could say by the grace of God, my prayers were answered. I had a good solicitor and I didn't go to prison because it was my first offence. And they gave me a suspended sentence of 180 hours community service. And at that point, and obviously all the money that I made through drug dealing was confiscated. So I lost all my money, which hurt me at the time because I was 19 years of age. And I think it was, what did they confiscate, the police? It was over £1,000 in cash at the time. That, that could be a lot. That was a lot of money then. So all my money was taken. I deserved it. I was a criminal and I was selling drugs. And that's not to judge anyone else who's doing that. I'm not in a position to judge, and I wouldn't. But I'm speaking about me and my story. So obviously, I was broke, and I had to do 180 hours community service every Sunday. I had to paint the school for other people that had obviously got in trouble for breaking the law. So during that time, I decided that I want to turn my life around. I don't want to live like this. So I got a job. I'm lucky I got a job at Royal Mail. A family member, which I really appreciate. What a lovely man, who's not with us anymore. But I'll never stop being grateful that he got me a job. He got me a job as a postman, and I loved the job. It was an honest living. And truth be known, like what you were saying, Bill, I had a lot of anxiety with working in a job and being around people. I was really struggling. And I even struggled in the interview, and I felt really embarrassed for getting nervous and stuttering. And they gave me the job in the end, and it really helped me in my life. It helped me to, come away from the path that I was going down, which wasn't a good path. So at that age, 19, 20, a couple of years in, I realized, although I really appreciate this job being a postman, I actually lost the job in the end, that's the truth. And I tried to get the job back. I was devastated. But then I realized that this isn't my dream. I really appreciate this job. It's given me a living. And I've got fond memories of it now and some great people that I met. But I knew in my heart, it's not my purpose in life. I didn't know what my purpose was at that time, but I knew that I want to do something else. I didn't realize it would be doing what I'm doing now, being a speaker, a teacher, a writer, and someone that would help people to overcome their anxieties and live their dreams. I didn't know that back then. So when I got fired from Royal Mail as a postman, that was really when the severe mental health problems started to happen to me. And about in my 20s, although I was battling with these mental health problems, and most people didn't know about it other than my mum, my nan. I'm not sure if my dad was fully aware. He knew a little bit about it. And I was really struggling. So at that time, I couldn't be fully honest about it with myself. The denial, it was too painful. I didn't know how to admit it. I was ashamed of it. I didn't understand that there was really nothing to be ashamed of. Obviously, there was a lot of work to be done, but I didn't know what I knew now. and I cared too much about what other people thought about me. So I was still battling with this identity of trying to be strong, which didn't work. So in my 20s, I had a dream, I had a vision, and the vision was to go out and do all the things that I wanted to do in my life. That was my dream, that was my goal. But at that time, I couldn't fully find the strength. And in my heart, I knew what I wanted to do. And just to kind of outline to you guys and girls, to make it clear, to inspire you, motivate you, give you hope, or give you context, in my head, it was quite simple, the things. It was quite simple. It was, I want to go to the gym and I want to lift the weights so I can get in shape. Bruce Lee was my inspiration. My dad was my inspiration. And later on, you know, the bodybuilders like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Lee Haney, all those guys. I wanted to go into the gym and lift weights because I was scared to do it. I was scared to train in the gym because I thought that other men would laugh at me and bully me. I also thought that women would laugh at me, both men and women. And I was scared publicly. I had bad social anxiety, which was obviously another form of anxiety. So for me, it was like, if I could do that, if I could get past all these voices and all this paranoia, I'd be so proud of myself. I'd be so happy. I'd be free. And I did that. Actually, a good friend of mine, we did that together. So doing it with him was life-changing. I had some of the best times of my life bodybuilding and weight training. And as I said, it was one of the avenues in which I overcame this anxiety in that area. But that wasn't all of it. There were other things that I wanted to do. I wanted to go to the boxing gym because I loved weights and I enjoyed bodybuilding, but that wasn't all of it. I wanted to go and do boxing and test myself because I grew up watching boxing with my dad. Hi, Jonathan. What kind of coaching your clients engaging? Is it? Sorry, let me just read your message there, Rob. So I'm a bit confused by your question. Can you explain it? So I was right in the midst there. Hi, Jonathan. What kind of coaching do your clients engage in? Is it the same as yours? You've confused me there. Sorry with the question. Can you repeat it? Do you mean in terms of if I coach people on how to be coaches? Or do you mean is what I did, what I'm showing you now, what I get my clients to do? Could you explain that? And I'll try and best answer your question. Yes, you teach clients to coach. Yeah, I've got a program for that. Yes, that's correct. But my teaching has changed from years ago, so I don't know how long you've been following me. Which subjects? Well, basically, to answer your question, Rob, I teach my clients, men and women, how to live their dreams and not their anxieties. So it encompasses all areas of life, if that makes sense. So it encompasses relationships, finances, health, communication, and what their particular purpose is, because obviously all my clients are different and not all of their, yes, all of their goals is the same with regards to conquering their anxiety, but their actual goals might be different. So one of my clients I coach, he's got a business in personal training. Another one of my clients that I'm coaching, his business is helping men and women that have got social anxiety how to change their life. So if that answers your question, that's the answer. So I had all these goals and they were my dreams in my early 20s to go to a weightlifting gym, and not just to go once, but to be able to go there as much as I wanted to. And I did that. And I was so happy that I did that. I did it with a good friend, and then eventually I could do it on my own. And that was kind of a joint goal that I always had, because I always remember growing up that my dad said to me, he said to me that, he said to me, Jonathan, it's great to have friends, and I love your friends, but you can't rely on people your whole life. You have to learn to do things on your own, because your friends are not always going to be around. I'm not always going to be around. Your mum's not going to be around. And if you can't learn to do things on your own, then life's going to be harder than it needs to be. So I never forgot my dad saying that. So for me, it was always important. It was always important that I did things with friends, because it's so important to have great memories with friends. And do things with your friends and loved ones. But there was something in me that my dad installed in me that I had to rely on myself, because, at some point, everyone's going to let you down. And that's just because, everyone's human. So you've got to rely on yourself. So I did these things on my own, and it gave me a lot of confidence and strength. So eventually I went to the boxing gym, and I was petrified to do it. I was absolutely terrified, so frightened. But they were lovely to me. And I was scared to walk in. I was shaking and nervous and stuttering just to walk into the gym and say, "Hi, my name's Jonathan. Could I train here? I'd like to box." I was scared to do that. I was afraid to do that. But I had to admit that to myself to overcome the anxiety of being burdened by the shame and all of the confusion. And when I did it, I felt so good. And when I went and actually, truth be known, this is the goodness of people. I was working out in a weightlifting gym. I was 20 years of age, and there was a guy there. He was 33 years of age, and I was hitting the bag, and he saw me and said, "You're pretty good. You're good. You got some talent." And he introduced himself to me, and he was an ex-professional boxer. I didn't know who this man was, and I'm not going to say his name. Maybe at some point I will, but I didn't know that he was famous, and he was an ex-professional boxer, and he was actually a famous journalist, boxing journalist, who interviewed everybody, Mike Tyson, all the great. I didn't know this, and he was an absolute gentleman. So we got talking, and I watched him work out on the bag, and he was brilliant, and I was like, "Wow, you're really good." And he was pretty humble, and then we got talking, and I said, I would like to do boxing, and he said, I'll take you down to my old amateur gym, and I'll introduce you. And I was so happy that he'd done that for me. I was young, but I was nervous to go, and he took me down to the gym. He took me down to Fitzroy Lodge in Lambeth, and introduced me to the trainers and helped me. But obviously, they told me to come back at another date, and I had to go down on my own. And I was really nervous when he went there, because I felt comfortable with him, because I kind of got to know him through the weightlifting gym, and we spoke regularly. And he gave me, he mentored me actually in boxing and helped me. And was just nice to me, a gentleman. So when I went down on my own, my legs were shaking, and I was nervous, and I had really, really bad social anxiety. But I went into the gym, and I faced my fear, and they were great. And they said, "Okay, come back next week." And I came back, and that was the start of my journey to amateur boxing. So another fear faced. And if I didn't confess it to myself and to God and my prayers, I wouldn't have gone down there, because my pride would have got in the way, my insecurities, my anxiety. So confessing it and getting it out is the first best step for anyone listening on this stream to actually doing it. So yeah, admitting your anxiety to yourself, or for those of you, that's none of my business, right? I respect everyone's faith, but this is my story. If that helps you, it's helped me. Couldn't do it without it. Talk to someone that you can trust. It helps get it out. It helps relieve the stress and the pain. And then when you've got the courage, go and face it. So admitting your anxieties and talking about them, and then going facing them, is life changing. It really is amazing. So, like I said, that was the start of me living my dreams and not living my fears, because up until that point, I couldn't do it. I couldn't come out of my house without having anxiety attacks. I couldn't make eye contact with people unless it was, my nan or my mum or my dad or close friends that I had that I was comfortable with. But truth be known, at times I found it hard to make eye contact with friends and family when I was having bad days and I was triggered. Really difficult to look people in the eye because of the shame that I was carrying, the fears, the insecurities, and not always wanting people to see me anxious and struggling and insecure. So boxing gave me so much confidence. It gave me strength. It gave me self-respect. It made me respect other people. It gave me discipline. It improved my character. It showed me everywhere in my life where I was insecure and where things needed to change. And that was a process. So doing weightlifting and training gave me the confidence to do boxing, but it still wasn't over. Obviously, my dreams, there was a big list. I encourage all of you, if you feel inspired to, get a list or get your phone and write down everything that you want to do in your life. Write all of it down. And if you want, you don't need to share it with other people. If you don't feel comfortable, that's fine. What's the most important thing is that you share it with yourself and you confess it. So confession doesn't have to be done through speaking, although I think that's probably the best way. It's not the only way. In my experience, confession can be done through speaking it out, writing things down, or for those of you that want to do that, through praying. But all of them have a transformative effect, and I've used all of them, and I practice all of them every single day, actually. But like I said, it's important that people follow their heart and their intuition and someone that they trust, because I understand it's not easy. It's not easy to trust people, especially with your vulnerabilities, right? The reason why I'm this open is because I choose to be, and it's taken me a long time to build this trust with myself and the courage to speak out and be able to handle whatever comes back, whatever criticism. But in the earlier days, when I was starting out, it was really difficult for me to trust people. And I don't regret that, because I wouldn't be where I am now. But I understand how people are feeling. But nonetheless, at some point, you've got to trust someone, and there are people that you can trust. There's lots of good people out there. And you've got to learn to trust yourself, which is so important. So moving on, my dream, the list was do the weight training forever, how long I wanted to do it, so I could get comfortable and confident in the gym on my own and with friends. Do boxing. What was the next one, you think? Yeah, the next one was public speaking. Always had a dream from when I was young to be a public speaker. My anxiety always said, you're not good enough, Jonathan. You're too anxious. You're too insecure. You're too shy. You wouldn't be able to handle it. You'd run out of things to say. Everybody would see your anxieties and shame you, and that would destroy you and break you down, make you depressed. And, the last time you spoke publicly at school, you got nervous and embarrassed, and everybody's seen it, and you humiliated yourself. But it was always a goal and a dream of mine. And when I heard Les Brown speaking and sharing his story, I thought, right, I'm going to do that. Not right now, but I'm going to build up to it. It's my dream. It's my goal. I love speaking, especially when I'm speaking the way I'm speaking now, from an honest place, a kind place. I'm being myself and I'm inspiring people. I love that. So what I done was I went to meetup groups to begin with, to learn how other people did it. And I went to, different groups, improvisation, comedy, business, dating events. And I learned from other men and women, and I watched them speaking in groups. And it gave me more motivation to do it myself. And when I got a bit more courage, I started giving public talks when I started my business many years ago in my late 20s, very late 20s to early 30s. And when I did it, well, the first talk that I gave, I got nervous and messed up, but the people were lovely. And then I continued to do it and got really good. And I was living my dreams. I was so happy. I couldn't believe I could do it. I couldn't believe it. I was in shock. I was in absolute shock that I was able to do it, because I never believed I could do it, because my anxieties would always say that I weren't good enough and I just didn't have what it took. So those things got crossed off the list: boxing, bodybuilding, public speaking. And there were other things around that. By the way, when I share my story, it's not always in the exact order, but it doesn't matter, because you've got to remember, and I've got to remember to share with people, I'm going at different times in my life to illustrate what I did and how people can live their dreams. But I'm not saying that men and women have got to copy me, because it's your life. I don't know what your dreams are. All I know is you can live them if you've got the courage to face them. So public speaking got completed, boxing got completed, bodybuilding got completed. The next one was getting a girlfriend, which was something that I didn't believe I could do, and I didn't think I was good enough, because all my insecurities from school. And that was really challenging for me. So I eventually faced that fear of talking to women, going obviously through, everybody gets rejected. I got rejected a lot because I was very nervous and wasn't very confident, until I became more confident, went on dates, and when I wasn't expecting it, at that time I met the love of my life. I'm sure, well, she told me she felt the same, and I fell in love and got a girlfriend. I just couldn't believe it. Because when I was in my early 20s, I was suicidal because of the pain and the shame and the loneliness and the hurt of not having a girlfriend, of not having a relationship. It was destroying me. And the fear of actually admitting that to myself, which wasn't an easy thing to do, and I couldn't do it for so many years. But boxing and the bodybuilding and the honesty and confessing to my nan, my mum, my dad, praying to God, getting inspired by great mentors, both men and women, Les Brown, gave me that extra strength. So it was a process. It wasn't an overnight thing. It wasn't a quick fix. So when I got a girlfriend, she changed my life. She inspired me. She inspired me to go and live my dreams, which was at the time teaching other men how to overcome their anxiety so they could get a girlfriend and improve their social life. I went and faced the fear of doing that. And the next fear for me was my fear of money, my fear of making money, because I was terrified of money. I grew up poor, and I grew up with the belief that I don't deserve to make much money. I had a lot of shame around money because of the struggle, and the anxiety tricked me. Anxiety, as you know, it goes into every area of your life and says you can't do that, you're not good enough, you don't deserve it, and you're ashamed, which wasn't true. So I had to be honest about that. That wasn't easy. So obviously I had to tell my girlfriend that. I had to tell her how ashamed and embarrassed I was for not having any money. She was great and supportive, because I was afraid that she would leave me if I didn't have any money. And I was afraid of everything around money. Well done for being honest, by the way. Anyone who's honest on this stream, well done. You've already made great progress. It takes a lot of courage, to be honest, especially on the live stream. Well done. That's great strength. So with money, the way that I overcame that fear was I had to make money. And the way that I made money was by creating value in my business, was by putting out honesty, a lot of free stuff. And then people started to obviously ask for my services, and I had to face my fear of having a business meeting and someone saying, well, Jonathan, I'm interested in your services. Can you help me? And I had to face my fear and say, yeah, I can help you. And when they would say, well, how much does it cost? It costs this much money. And I had to face that fear of them rejecting me and saying, oh, no, I'm not paying that. It's too expensive. Or them saying, I do want to pay it. So I was frightened. I was frightened of relationships, frightened of people, frightened of money, frightened of receiving money, frightened of not having money, frightened of losing it. So I faced that fear and I overcame it over time. And I started to make money doing what I loved. So that went off the list. Wow. Unbelievable. How can I do this? I didn't believe it. These suicidal thoughts were saying that you're never going to make any money. You're going to be broke your whole life and you're going to be on your own. But that wasn't over. There were more fears in my life, lots of more fears. There were fears of I was afraid to share my story. I was afraid to be vulnerable with everybody, with men and women. That means I was afraid to teach. Of course, I was afraid. I was afraid to share what I'm sharing now back then, because I just felt like I wasn't comfortable in sharing these things about me to anyone. So I had to start building the courage. And you do that by doing it. And I started to share my story. And the opposite happened. People loved it. It changed people's lives. It changed people's lives. And, you know, some people didn't like it. That was fine. I had to toughen up. I had to handle criticism. I had to accept people saying awful things about me. And that gave me strength. So that fear was faced. What other fears were there? Oh, of course, I almost left it out. I had to when I faced my fear of doing amateur boxing and getting fit, I had to face my fear of having an amateur fighter boxing match because I was frightened of losing. And I did face my fear and I did lose. I did get beat. I got knocked out and I was embarrassed about that. I was embarrassed that I got beaten in front of my brother and my brother's friends, and I felt like I let my brother down and I embarrassed him and let all of his friends down. But looking back, I'm glad it happened. It changed my life and I learned so much. So I faced that fear. So when you're facing your fears and living your dreams, you're not going to win all the time, but that's not important. What is important is that you've got the courage to face them and live and grow and learn, because none of us are perfect. I'm certainly not. But if you're not going to live your dreams because your anxieties, then you're not going to lose because you're not going to do anything. A lot of these anxieties, that men and women have are not true. But I understand it's challenging when you believe it, but you've got to challenge these anxieties. And so, when you're saying, I can understand how you feel, you've really got to challenge these things because they're not true. The way I dealt with it was comedy, because there isn't anything awful that can hurt me. Comedy is brilliant. You're really brave. Well done. I love comedy. So what I'm trying to say to people, when you're living your dreams and you're happy and you're building your confidence, it's not always going to go well, and it didn't always go well for me. But with more life experience and a different perspective, that's brilliant. That's great. None of us are always going to win. So I hope people can understand that. I'll come back to that at another point. So what else is there? Of course, traveling. One of my biggest fears on my list. And I've done that quite recently. I was terrified to travel. I mean, terrified is an understatement. I was petrified, frightened to death of the idea of traveling, because my anxiety said, I'm not good enough to travel. It's not for me. I don't deserve it and I wouldn't be able to handle it. A lot of conflicting, as all of you know. So when did I first travel? Well, the first trip I'd done was to Spain, which I loved, with a friend. Thanks to him. I was late 20s, And man, what an experience. Tenerife, Spain. He asked me to come, and he was great, you know. That's why you appreciate people. And I told him I was scared, and he said, "Don't worry." He had experience, so I went with him, and we went for a week, and I had a great time with him. Good memories, fond memories. So I did it. I got on a plane, left England, UK, and I went to Spain for a week with my friend, and we went to Tenerife, and it was absolutely beautiful. And I come back, and you know, that is it's living a dream. I didn't believe I could do it. I didn't believe I could. That's why I'm saying, I'm going to say it, but I'm sure hopefully people will get it. I'll say it again. If I can do it to whoever's listening, 100% you can do it, because I'm no different to any of you. I'm not better than you, and I'm not worse. So when I come back from that trip, like I said earlier, but still, I hadn't overcome the fear of traveling on my own. Remember what I said earlier on, and I hope men and women get a lot from this, right? But again, you've got to live your life. So at the same time, I'm really trying to help more men and women who have got anxiety, especially, to live their dreams. I'm not saying that they've got to live my life. Of course not, because you know everyone's got their own life to live. But you can get inspiration. So if you want to go Spain, go Spain. But it's, you know, the moral of the story is courage, you know, and what we said earlier. So like I said earlier, I always wanted to travel on my own, but I was scared of it. So, oh yeah. So another trip comes up. I go with a friend. I have the time of my life, living a dream, and this battery goes so quick. So I go to Prague. Oh, the battery's running out. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's exactly what I'm doing, sharing my testimony. So I get invited by a friend randomly in my early 30s back in I can't remember the date, excuse me. I think it was 2015. And I went with him, and I was scared to go. I told him I was scared. It's so good when you're honest and vulnerable. And he went, "What are you scared for? You know, you said you've done so many brave things." Yeah, and I'm not perfect. Just because I teach people how to overcome anxiety doesn't mean I know everything. So he said, "Come along with me," we traveled, life changing. That's all I can say. So we went to Prague, and then we went to Poland a couple of weeks later, and I had the time of my life with him. But I still hadn't done it on my own, and it was haunting me. And a lot of my clients have traveled all around the world, and which is amazing. They inspired me. So I got the opportunity to travel on my own, and I went to Germany twice on my own, and I'm so grateful I done it because I was scared to do it. And then I went to Latvia twice. So that's living my dreams. That's what it means, you know, to live your dreams in that way. So that went off the list. I did it. That was off my list. I faced my terrifying anxiety of getting on a plane on my own. And obviously, although I did meet really good friends there, but I did it on my own. I didn't think I could do it. That anxiety lies. It's a very, very good liar. Write that down. Anxiety lies a lot. Pretty much lies about most things. So, like I said to you, from age 20, my journey started on this journey on facing my anxieties, and it's been a continuation. I'm 40 years of age, and my continued goal and dream, I'm living it now, is to inspire more men and women to live their dream. Just a second, I've got to put the charger in. The battery's going to run out. Oh, how great is this? This new charger I bought, it fits. Those of you that are going to watch this stream later, I really appreciate it, because these streams are also a video. I appreciate everyone coming on. Yeah, I mean, again, that's again well done for being brave and being honest that you've got an anxiety around talking to women your age. So it's very good to get it out. Well done. All of you are already facing it. It takes a lot of courage. But what I would recommend as well, just to help more men and women, it's great getting out on the live stream, and I really appreciate all of you doing that. But I'd say don't just rely on that, because it's at some point it's better to speak to someone in real life. And that's another thing that I encourage on my platform for men and women, which is, to build honest and meaningful relationships in person and not just to spend too much time online. Because as we already know, spending too much time online isn't good for your mental health anyway. But a certain amount of time is really good. It's better than nothing. And I'll talk more about that in another live stream. Um, so, um, so I did that. There are other anxieties that I've done that are brilliant. Well, with my mentor, getting a mentor, I had anxiety about doing that. And when I was on my journey, my dream, my goal was to face the fear of trusting another person, a mentor, and actually meeting them and getting mentored and spending money too. I had an anxiety around trusting a mentor, spending money, and actually, obviously, I had to face my own anxieties and insecurities. So I faced my fear and got a mentor. I worked with my mentor, Jeff. When did I work, Jeff? I can't remember the date. I think it was around 2015. The date's not really that important, but the thing is, I'd done it, and it was amazing. So that was another thing off my list to face my fear, because one of my first mentors was Les Brown, but it was online. Obviously, I didn't meet him in person, and I didn't spend any money, which I'm grateful for. I listened to his YouTube video, and I always wanted to meet Les Brown, but at the time, I didn't have the money. I couldn't afford his services, and obviously, Les Brown was in America, and I was in the UK, and I wasn't willing to travel. So that was wonderful. That was great. That was another thing off the list, and that was living my dream. Getting to meet one of my heroes, Jeff. Seeing Jeff online, hearing his story, following his work, and it's like living in a dream. You see someone online, they inspire you. They're brilliant, at what they do. They're famous, and you get to meet them in person, and they're with you in person, mentoring you. That was just a dream come true. Dream come true, living a dream. So I did that, faced that fear. Other fears that I faced, which was going to the cinema by myself. I was scared to do it. I was ashamed. I was ashamed to go on my own, because the voices of anxiety would say, well, you shouldn't be on the cinema on your own. You're successful. You're a businessman. You should be in the cinema with your friends or with a girlfriend or with your family. You're a loser if you're in the cinema. It's not true. It's not true. It's the anxiety speaking. And the truth is, that's not true. Someone's not a loser because they go cinema on their own. I actually love going cinema. I love going with my girlfriend at the time, and I love going with my friends, and I've gone cinema with clients, but I like my own company too. I don't want to let my anxiety tell me what I can and can't do, and shame me and say these horrible things and make me believe it. I love movies. I love cinema, and I wanted to have the confidence and the strength to go there and get some popcorn and walk in and speak to the people without being socially terrified, and sit down and enjoy the movie. So when I did that, I was living my dream. And I did that several years ago, and I loved it. And I did it recently. I watched a film and I just loved it. I wanted to go on my own. And again, it's getting over that fear about not caring what people think. It's not important what they think. It's important how I feel, what I think. So going to the cinema on my own was living the dream. Now the next fear was, believe it or not, was going to the theatre. I was absolutely paralyzed with anxiety, fear, shame, and all these thoughts from my past, because part of me felt like I don't deserve to go to the theatre. It's too posh for someone like me, because I come from a council estate, and I grew up in I guess you would say, compared to most people, a poor family. It's not true. Well, it's true where I grew up, but it's not true. So when I was mentoring a good client of mine, I won't say his name, but he's travelled over here many years. We've got a good relationship now, and he loved the theatre. So I told him, and I went with him. We had a great time. But I also have I done it on my own? No, actually, I haven't done it on my own. That's something I will do. See, sometimes when you're talking about your fears, you discover ones that you ain't faced. So it's an ongoing journey. But I went with him. I later went with a friend, and I overcame that fear of going to the theatre with friends. Amazing. I absolutely loved it. And I got past the identity, which is it's not who I am, and it's not who you are, but anxiety can do that. Anxiety can trick you into believing that it's your identity. So that was amazing. Next one were hotels. As a kid, I loved hotels. I watched the movies growing up, and I just wanted to go to hotels. It wasn't an ego thing. It wasn't about money, riches. I loved it. I love hotels. I like the buildings. I like the energy. I like the architecture. I like it feels like being in a movie, and I wanted to experience that. And I didn't want to listen to that voice that says, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, they won't let you in, they're going to shout at you, they're going to escort you out, and you can't do it. So when I was working with my mentor, Jeff, he went there anyway. It was good getting over my fears. I went to a luxurious place with him where he went. He invited me. That was great. Then I went with my friend. We went to all the top hotels in London. And then I done it on my own and overcame that fear. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I couldn't have believed it in my wildest dreams. When I was in my 20s and I was struggling with suicidal thoughts and panic attacks, and I was scared to leave my house, if someone would have said to me, in a couple of years' time, you'll be comfortable in all the top hotels in London or anywhere around the world. You'll be able to go in there, be yourself, be kind, be friendly, and you'll be treated well. I would have said, you're talking about someone else. That's not me. That can't be me. That can't be me. I can't do it. I did it. And that was living a dream. Oh, of course. Can't wait to share it. Swimming. One of my goals and dreams was to go swimming. I couldn't do it. Didn't believe I could do it, because when we went on a school trip when I was younger, we went swimming with the school. When we were young, they used to take us in a group. And I was a skinny kid growing up, and I was embarrassed about being skinny. I was ashamed, and I couldn't really swim very well. Obviously, in the school, there were really good swimmers. I remember there was this there was kind of like this girl and guy in our group, and they were the best, and everyone else was kind of okay. And I thought I was the worst. I couldn't swim in the deep end, and kids laughed at me and made fun of me, so it made me insecure in that area. So as an adult, I made a list of that, and I thought, you know what? One day when I've got the courage to admit to myself that I'm ashamed, I'm afraid to go swimming because it's haunting me from my childhood, I'm going to conquer this fear, and I'm going to improve actually at my swimming, because my dad's an excellent swimmer. My mum's a good swimmer. My auntie, so it's in the genes, it's in my family. So when was it? 2007. I think it was 217, 218. It was 217, 218 when I come out of mental hospital after having a mental breakdown. That's another story. I got the courage. I was so excited. Sometimes excitement takes over, which is a good thing for anxiety. And I said to myself, I can do this. I'm not afraid to go swimming. Or I'm not afraid of being embarrassed. I've gone to hell and back and had a great life. By this time, I had a lot of experience, but still scared. So let me just make a point of saying, doesn't matter what you got, and it doesn't matter who you are, what you think you are. Anxiety can get the better of any of us. myself included, on any given day. So I admitted it to myself. I said, yeah. And I went swimming, and I absolutely loved it. And I got over the embarrassment and the shame, and no one said, look at him. He's this, he's that. Because obviously it was all in my head, and I was older now, a lot more confident and more acceptant of my insecurities. So I went swimming and fell in love with it and continued to do it. And it gave me so much. It gave me good mental health, confidence, strength. And my dream recently was to be able to share this with everybody, inspire men and women to go and live their dreams and to share, as you said, my testimony. So I did it, and I got good at it. And guess what? I get emotional saying it now. I went swimming today on my own. Anyone can do it who wants to do it, men and women. But like I said at the start, you've got to get past this anxiety of the conversation. The conversation needs to be had. Because if you're not honest about your anxieties, the negative conversation is going to take over, and it's going to paralyze you into doing nothing. So when I say live in your dreams, I'm talking about the simple things in life from day to day. But I'm also talking about your childhood dream, that as well. You can do that. And I can expand more on that, and I will in other videos. But I'm doing it now anyway. I'm sure a lot of you, you're really intelligent and you're getting it. And those people that don't understand, that's fine too. Don't put pressure on yourself. Because I used to put a lot of pressure on myself to learn things, and that used to make me not be able to learn. So be patient. So that was amazing. Next anxiety was to learn how to cook, because I had a lot of anxieties around cooking, voices. You can't do it, and truth be known, I did do it when I was younger, but healthy cooking. So I got inspired by one of my friends I absolutely love. I've known him for 20 years. He inspired me. He taught me. He inspired me and he taught me by giving me his amazing home cooking. He inspired me. And he said some wisdom to me when I was younger, and I've never forgot it. And I'll say it now. And at the time, I was quite ignorant, and I was quite selfish. I was also kind as well. And I was younger, and he said to me, Jonathan, it's great to take a woman out for dinner and spend money and things like that, and you buy a lot of takeaways for yourself, and that's good, but you can't just rely on that. It would be a good idea to learn to cook, so you can, when you've got a relationship, you can cook a woman a meal and not have to just take the easy option, which is takeaways. And when he said it at the time, I didn't like it, but I knew deep down it was true, and there was wisdom in that. And he also said to me, it's good to be able to cook for your family, your mum or your dad or your friends, or for yourself. Self-respect, self-reliant. Of course, it touched on, truths everywhere. My mum had told me this. I didn't listen. My nan told me, and my dad told me. So he said something that my dad had said, but I didn't want to hear it. Sometimes anxiety does that, and that's fine. We're all human. Pride gets in the way. So I made a note of that. And now I cook all the time. I love it. I cook for friends. I cook for myself. And I didn't think I could do it. I didn't think I could cook new things because of the identity of the anxiety which lies. So I done that. That's living a dream. And now I post the meals up on Instagram to inspire men and women if they want to eat healthy. I don't force people to do it. So it's amazing, and sitting down and talking and getting these things out makes you value yourself more. Everybody, we all need to do this at some point if we want to live our dreams. Yeah, I love cooking. That's amazing that you love it. Yeah, you can learn recipes. So that was amazing to do that. Right, another anxiety. I had anxieties of having a conversation with a hairdresser. I couldn't do it for so many years in that situation. Even when I was successful, even when I was teaching people, giving public talk, in that situation, I couldn't do it because it was an old anxiety from when I was young, and it made me ashamed in that situation. Anxiety can do that. I've said it to clients before. We've had great conversations, and I said, look, no one's better than anyone. And, just because you're confident in one area, it doesn't always mean you're going to be good everywhere. And that's the beauty of, learning from others. Anyway, so that was an anxiety of mine. It was shaming me for a long time, giving me a lot of pressure. So I said, you know what? I've got to be honest with myself here. And I've, got to put my pride aside. And I've got to be honest about the fear. It doesn't matter about what I've done before. So I made a note of it. I said, you know what? When I go and get my beard trim and my haircut, I'm going to have a conversation. And it's nice to be friendly as well. Very nice to be nice to people. And I'm going to have a conversation. I'm not just going to say, well, yeah, can you trim my beard, cut my hair? And when the hairdresser says to me, how's your day? It's been really good, and go quiet. No, that's not living my dream. That's not living my dreams. That's living my fears and anxieties. And that's not much fun. And also, I didn't like the feeling that I'm being unfriendly or I'm being rude. It's also what I felt is selfish. I'm not being kind enough consistently. That's not how I want to be. That's not how I was brought up. So I did it, and it was I was nervous, I was uncomfortable, but it got easier, and I had a great conversation. I had an amazing conversation. And we've now done it with so many hairdressers, just to outline a point to really get this home to men and women, both men and women. And I loved it and got more confident and overcame that fear now. Recently, when I got my beard trimmed and hair trimmed, I had a full-blown conversation with a lady that was cutting my hair, and thanked her, and it was great. So that's living a dream. So for me, and I hope that men and women, not to force them, they will agree on this for themselves. Living your dreams, it's not just about, oh, I want to make loads of money, or I want to be a superstar. Not that I aspire to be that, but I understand that might be people's goals and dreams, but it's in the small detail. Because as you know, for men and women, when you've got bad anxiety, it's hard to leave the house, depending on where you're at. I hope that no one's in that point, but the reality is a lot of people will be. So when you're able to do the things that you're scared to do, and when you're able to do the things that your anxiety is telling you that you can't do, that is success. You're living your dreams and not your fears. So have you noticed how, and I've learned today during this talk and testimony, I haven't differentiated the different fears or put them in a hierarchy and said, oh, well, me going to Spain, that's a bigger deal than me having a conversation with my hairdresser. Well, it's not actually. In principle, it's all the same. The situations are different. And yes, it might be more challenging depending on the situation, but the principle is the same. Principle's the same. Be honest about the anxiety, own the anxiety, admit it, confess it, talk to a friend, a family member, if your faith, God, if that's right for you, write it down and set a goal to face it. And when you face it, you're going to feel great. I always feel like I'm feeling now. Honest, peaceful, calm, confident, and just grateful and inspired, and happy and connection. You're going to feel those things, and some of you might even feel more. Yeah, definitely. But that's fine. People can do that as well. It's, again, we want to be like easygoing here. You can say, well, I've got 3 anxieties, and the 3 anxieties, for example, one could be public speaking, one could be talking to new people, Another one could be another one could be doing an activity, and you might prioritize your anxieties as some, being more difficult for you, and you might value the experience of overcoming them more than the others, if that makes sense. But both perspectives can be right, which is great. And sometimes I go back and forward and make a decision, and that's great. And you go, well, what anxiety meant more to me? And depending on different stages of your life, it could change, but that's totally fine. The most important thing is that at some point you're going to face these anxieties and live the life that you want and gain the confidence through that process. And that's how you gain confidence as well. You gain confidence in this area by doing the two things that I've been outlining today, by talking, communicating, and the act of facing the things that make you anxious. The time's flown. We will be finishing up soon. I'm going to be doing lots more, so make sure you come on the streams if you enjoy it, because the time just flies when you're having fun. I think people struggle in certain areas of their lives and they can improve. 100%. 100%. That's true what you said. Do any of you want to get any more questions in? I'll try and answer them now, because I'm going to eat some dinner. I haven't eaten all day. I've been fasting. So there's a big long list there of the things that I did, and there's going to be a few things that I've missed, which is fine, but hopefully people get the moral of the story, that you can take whatever you're going to take from my story, my testimony, and go and have the courage to face your anxieties in your life. Things that I do. You're welcome. Yeah, another anxiety that I faced was, speaking on camera, doing YouTube videos and live streams, and that's something I did. Right, so that'll be it today, because I've got to eat. It's getting late, and I will be doing a lot more live streams. But yeah, I appreciate all of you coming on, and I'm sure you're going to get a lot from this. But yeah, I would say last thing I'd say, and I know people are going to do it, but don't put pressure on yourself to be perfect and do everything. Go at your pace. Don't compare yourself to me or anyone on the stream or other people, because you're not going to succeed like that. It's all about you focusing on improving yourself, and and that's the best way to do it. So yeah, write down your anxieties or speak to someone that you trust, and gradually build the courage, because for me, it wasn't an overnight thing. And as you can hear, I'm sharing a 20-year journey with you, and I'm condensing it down into an hour and a half. So take your time, but start today, one day at a time. Yeah, well, I appreciate all of you coming on, and as I said, I do this all the time with the streams and the teaching. So hope all of you had a good time, and I'll good luck. I'll speak to you soon. All right. Good night.